Gildan Media presents Your Coach in a Box, affordable life-changing audio programs.
NLP, the Essential Handbook for Business. Communication techniques to build relationships, influence others, and achieve your goals. Written by Jeremy Lazarus. Read by Walter Dixon. Foreword. This is an extremely useful book to introduce those working in organizations to the world of applications from neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP helps us understand how successful people do what they do. We all need to take our whole person, our mind, body, and spirit to work, and in the words of Robert Dilts, one of the co-developers of NLP, to contribute to the creation of a world in which people want to belong. No longer can we be passengers, just turning up without affecting change in ourselves and our colleagues. The end of lifelong careers, the turbulent changes caused by downsizing and market economies, the budget cuts in the public sector, the environmental differences caused by remote and home working, technology, and upheaval in domestic relations have all added vast amounts of complexity to the way we juggle our daily lives. The speed of work is not conducive to reflection or creating the energy to take action. This pragmatic handbook enables us to quickly and easily understand tools and techniques for causing simple changes within ourselves and others, and is full of examples of applications from the organizational world. We can read about both organizational skills and life skills, blending and aligning the two to work holistically with ourselves as a whole person. In the words of Gregory Bateson, everything is a metaphor for everything else, and we find that NLP is in fact a metaphor for the firmly established and researched psychological practices that Richard Bandler and John Grinder collected together so that we can use them to become successful in all that we do. Jeremy has simplified the initial work and makes it truly accessible for all. Dr. Sally Vanson, behavioral change consultant, executive coach, and certified master trainer of NLP, Bradford-on-Avon, UK. Introduction. Welcome to NLP, the Essential Handbook for Business. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, is essentially a series of techniques, tools, and attitudes which help people to improve their results in all areas of life, including business and the workplace. This audiobook has been written to help you to improve your results in your business or career, and to achieve the kind of improvements that tens and probably hundreds of thousands of people have experienced throughout the world, either directly from NLP training or from NLP-based coaching. NLP was originally developed in the mid-1970s by John Grinder, an associate professor of linguistics at UCLA, and Richard Bandler, one of his star pupils. They began to inquire into how excellent communicators differed from other people. These initial projects to find the difference that makes the difference led to further inquiry and projects into the mindset of successful people and organizations, and to the development of some of the widely used NLP techniques which we will cover in this audiobook. Since its early days, NLP has become widely used in many areas of work. NLP is increasingly becoming accepted as a valid work-based tool, and since the early part of the millennium, there have been master's degrees from UK universities which have NLP as a significant component. Since 2008, there have been academic conferences in the UK where research papers have been presented regarding the effectiveness of NLP. If you have been on management development, communication, leadership, or sales training courses, you will probably have already had some previous experience of NLP, whether or not NLP was expressly mentioned on the course, because many of these types of courses will incorporate NLP. This audio program is suitable both for people who have not knowingly been exposed to NLP and for those who have some experience and want to broaden and deepen their knowledge. The program will include only the necessary theory to help you to be able to use NLP and will refer to a few links with existing business and management theories. The bulk of the book will be a practical, hands-on guide to skills that you will be able to use for the rest of your career. You may have already read my other book, Successful NLP, which covers the use of NLP in most areas of life. NLP, the Essential Handbook for Business, looks specifically at how you can use NLP in numerous workplace situations. Please note that although this book has the word business in the title, the contents are equally applicable in not-for-profit sectors. For example, even though public sector organizations, such as hospitals, local government, may not have a formal sales function, They have revenues, targets, budgets, and expenditures like any business, and their staff need to influence and persuade. So if you work in a not-for-profit organization, whenever you hear the term business in this audiobook, please consider that it means work or the workplace and is equally relevant to you. The terms business, work, the workplace, and organizations will be used interchangeably throughout the audiobook. How NLP, the Essential Handbook for Business, is structured. There are 6 parts of the audiobook, each with its own brief introduction. Part 1 provides an essential background and foundation to the material covered in the rest of the audiobook. Part 2 covers communication, including the subtle meaning of words and how to use words to put your message across even more effectively. It also looks at nonverbal communication, which is often even more important than verbal communication. Part 3 looks at how to change the way you think and feel, and hence your results, the nuts and bolts of NLP. For each topic, you will learn why it is useful, the relevant information about the topic, and how to use it in a variety of work-related areas and activities. I will answer some of the questions that many of my training course delegates typically have about each topic. Part 4 covers gaining even greater insight into and how to understand, motivate, and influence people at work. Part 5 covers how to use NLP to replicate excellence. Part 6 takes 16 activities in the workplace, for example, recruitment, sales, and decision-making, and summarizes which of the NLP topics covered earlier in the book would be useful to you in those situations. You can use it as a quick reference guide when you are preparing for or involved in one of these 16 activities. In addition, there are appendices available in the companion PDF to this audiobook, listing answers to 2 specific exercises on language in Chapter 7, information about NLP training courses available should you wish to learn NLP in a supervised environment, a list of resources for further learning, and a glossary. Practical tips when listening to this audiobook. Most chapters have exercises, tips, and brief stories showing how the techniques have been and could be used in work situations. It is recommended that you do all of the exercises in order to solidify your understanding of the relevant technique and how you can use it in practice. Most of the exercises have an estimated duration for your guidance. Each NLP technique included in the audiobook is explained step by step in sufficient detail so that you can use the techniques effectively in your work. You will probably find it useful to re-listen to some of the processes or refer to them while doing the exercises. Most people learning NLP find that the more they listen through and then practice a particular NLP process, the more effectively they are able to use it. Many of the topics discussed are relevant for individuals and organizations. As you listen to the book, it is worth remembering that organizations are simply collections of individuals. Please note that I have changed the names and sometimes genders of the people referred to in the examples in order to preserve client confidentiality. A quick word on ethics and best practice. NLP coaching techniques are potentially powerful business tools and are only to be used in a way that is beneficial to all people involved. Although many of the techniques in NLP are used by qualified NLP professionals, practitioners, master practitioners, and trainers to assist others to improve their results, NLP, the Essential Handbook for Business, is written primarily for people to use for themselves and colleagues, as opposed to when coaching others, unless they have other coaching experience or credentials. Although NLP techniques are increasingly being used by medical professionals, therapists, and counselors, they are not a substitute for professional medical advice, therapy, or counseling, if that is what someone needs. If in doubt, I recommend you initially contact your Human Resources Department or medical practitioner, or the Association of NLP, www.anlp.org. Part 1. The Foundations. Part 1 provides the foundation and building blocks for the techniques and practices covered in the rest of the audiobook. Chapter 1 gives an overview of what NLP is, how it originated, and the types of business situations where NLP can help. Chapter 2 discusses what happens inside every person's head during every single moment at work, looks at why we are all different from each other, and provides some initial ideas about how to communicate even more effectively. Chapter 3 moves on to the mindset for success, the key attitudes and beliefs that successful business people have. Chapter 4 looks at how to set goals in such a way that makes them really achievable. Chapter 1. What is NLP, and how can it help you? Overcoming the challenges you face at work. There are numerous challenges in the workplace, both at an organizational level and at an individual level. This chapter seeks initially to identify the main challenges and then explain what NLP is and how it can help you to overcome them. Challenges in the workplace. Businesses and other organizations, and the individuals working in them, are facing greater and more complex challenges than before, as the world's economies become more complex and global, and consumers become more discerning and demanding. At an organizational level, some of the key challenges include how to retain your competitive edge, how to recruit, retain, and motivate excellent staff, how to balance the needs of all the relevant stakeholders, how to create leaders of the future, how to make sufficient profit and return on investment, how to be flexible enough to respond to and manage changes in the economy or your business, how to manage diversity. At a more individual level, the challenges include how to achieve the objectives set by the organization in your job description or at your periodic appraisal, assuming you have them, how to create a suitable work-life balance, how to manage time and priorities, how to manage your own career progression, how to keep your skills up to date or even ahead of the field, how to feel fulfilled at work and find work that aligns with your values. This audiobook is dedicated to helping both individuals and organizations, that is, a collection of individuals, overcome the challenges they face. The challenges just outlined often reflect the following 16 activities that influence results at work. Internal communications with staff and colleagues. 1. Management of staff. 2. Team building. 3. Leadership. 4. Human resources, recruitment, and interviewing. 5. Training. 6. Coaching. External communications with customers, clients, and suppliers. 7. Sales, business development, and account management. 8. Marketing and advertising. 9. Liaison with clients, customers, patients, and other service users. 10. Procurement. 11. Negotiation. 12. Presentations. 13. Resolving conflicts and misunderstandings. Work processes. 14. Consultancy, including change management. 15. Improved decision-making. 16. Creative problem-solving. Throughout the audiobook, you will learn how to use NLP to help you address each of these topics at both an individual and organizational level. Exercise 1.1. Approximately 5 to 15 minutes. In light of the topics just mentioned, reflect on why you are listening to this audiobook and what you want to achieve from it, both for you individually and, if you have management responsibilities at work, for your organization. For example, you might want to become even better at making sales, managing your staff, or preventing misunderstandings. Please do this exercise thoroughly. Making a list of what you want to gain from listening to this audiobook will help you focus your attention. For reasons that will become clear later in the audiobook, the more you know what you want and why you want it, the more you will benefit from this audio program. What is NLP? There are various ways of explaining NLP, and many NLP professionals alter the way they explain it depending on the audience. One often used definition is how to use the language of your mind, neuro-linguistic, to change the programmers or patterns of behavior. Examples of patterns of behavior at work are feeling nervous or confident before meetings or presentations, becoming angry or showing understanding with staff for not delivering on time, procrastinating or being decisive about making decisions. Another definition of NLP is a series of skills, techniques, and approaches to help you achieve your desired outcomes and goals. Two main reasons why there are various definitions are because there are different ways in which NLP can be used. For example, coaching, sales, management, sport, counseling, health, and education, and because it is still a relatively new profession. The benefits of NLP. NLP provides a series of techniques, attitudes, and tools to achieve three main benefits in the workplace: improving communication, changing thinking, attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs, replicating excellence. Let's take each of these benefits in turn. Improving communication. You can have brilliant ideas, but if you can't get them across, your ideas won't get you anywhere. Lee Iacocca, former president at Ford Motor Company and Chrysler. At work, you probably communicate with other people most of the day. You also communicate with yourself. For example, if you are nervous before a meeting, you are in some way communicating to yourself that it may not go well. People rarely get nervous at the prospect of a situation going according to plan. NLP provides a series of ways to communicate more effectively with others, such as staff, customers, suppliers and colleagues, and yourself, by changing the way you perceive the situation if you are nervous, in order to become more relaxed. The communication aspects of NLP are covered in chapters 2, 6, 7, and 15, and to some degree communication is covered in every chapter. Changing thinking, attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. Most people experience moments of negativity at work. For example, if their promotion application has been turned down, or if they have lost an important contract. Sometimes people behave in ways that are not particularly useful, such as procrastinating, showing frustration inappropriately, or not considering other points of view when it would be beneficial to do so. NLP provides a series of techniques to assist you to become more positive and adopt useful behaviors instead of unhelpful ones. Chapters 9 to 13 cover some of these techniques, and Chapter 3 covers the empowering attitudes and beliefs usually found in successful people. Replicating excellence. Whether you would like to replicate excellence at departmental or organizational level, sometimes referred to as benchmarking, replicate excellence in a particular task, such as negotiating or managing, or replicate your own excellence in a different situation. For example, if you are excellent at presenting to 5 people and feel overwhelmed at presenting to 50, what are you doing in the smaller presentation that you could replicate in the larger one? NLP has a methodology to assist in replicating excellence, which is known in NLP as modeling. Chapter 16 will cover the key elements of modeling for organizations. Caveats. Very occasionally I hear someone say that NLP is manipulative. This is not the case, because whether something is manipulative depends on the intention of the user, not on the thing or tool itself. For example, in the vast majority of situations, a computer will be used in a positive and useful way, and very occasionally it can be used for criminal purposes. That is not a criticism of the computer. Like a computer, NLP is a very powerful tool. Based on many years' experience, my own and that of my NLP associates, of using NLP in business, I believe that the best results come from using NLP only to create solutions that work for all stakeholders in the organization. Finally, as mentioned in the introduction, NLP is not a substitute for therapy or counseling, if that is what someone requires. Chapter 2. Communication at Work. What really happens when people talk? I'm a great believer that any tool that enhances communication has profound effects in terms of how people can learn from each other and how they can achieve the kind of freedoms that they're interested in. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. In Chapter 1, we mentioned that improving communication is one of the key benefits of NLP. In this chapter, we'll take a closer look at communication in the workplace, start discussing why your messages may not always have the desired effect, and look at how you can use NLP to remedy this. Once you have grasped the simple yet profound elements about communication explained in the next section, your ability to understand and influence others at work will increase, and you will be able to use it as a structure for understanding and using the remainder of this book to your advantage. Overview of Communication at Work. Diagram 2.1, available in the companion PDF to this audiobook, shows what happens inside the head of every customer, supplier, and colleague, from the most junior to the most senior. Known as the NLP communication model, it explains in overview why there are misunderstandings, and why you could say the same thing to different customers or staff members but receive very different responses. The communication model also provides a framework to understand, communicate with, and influence people that we will return to several times in the audiobook. The following description will mention the NLP terminology with relevant explanations. It will also focus primarily on individual communication, because when communicating in an organization, you are communicating with a collection of individuals, although the organizational implications will be referred to briefly here and in far more depth in later chapters. Starting from the top right-hand side, you receive information from your surroundings, which you perceive through your 5 senses. This information is then automatically and almost instantly filtered. The 3 key filters are covered in the following section, and leads to an internal representation, that is, a thought or mental image of what you think you have perceived, usually a combination of pictures, sounds, feelings, internal dialogue, plus possibly taste and smell. Your state, that is, how you feel, will depend on whether this thought is agreeable to you or not, and this in turn will impact on your physiology, for example, how you are standing, moving, and talking. These thoughts, feelings, and physiological responses will lead to your behaviors and actions, which ultimately determine the results you achieve. For example, if your boss tells you that you are chairing the meeting in 5 minutes' time because she has to go to an urgent appointment, and you are having positive thoughts about it, feeling good and looking and sounding confident, you are more likely to perform better than if you are dreading it, feeling anxious, and stumbling over your words with a faltering voice. Some of the reasons why you might think positively or negatively about the situation will be covered in the section headed What Influences How We Filter, coming up later this chapter. The 3 main filters. The 3 main filters are deletion, distortion, generalization. Let's take each in turn. Deletion. When you perceive information, much of it is deleted. It has been estimated that through our 5 senses we receive millions of bits of information each second of the day, whereas our conscious mind can only deal with 126 bits per second, based on work by Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, author of Flow, who estimates that we use 40 bits per second to understand one person speaking to us. Even if these numbers are exaggerated, you are probably not aware of what's in your hands right now, nor of the sounds you hear around you other than this audiobook, nor of the things in your peripheral vision, until you heard me mention them. Indeed, psychologists assert that if we were aware of all information received by our senses, we would be overwhelmed and would not be able to function. In a positive sense, deleting information helps you to focus on what needs to be done, for example, focusing on specific tasks to meet deadlines. In a less useful sense, deletions can mean that you could miss important information, perhaps because your attention is focused elsewhere. For example, you might be in such a hurry to produce a report that you only skim read an email containing important information. Please note that deletion is a natural and automatic process, unlike ignoring, which is a conscious choice. Being aware that you delete information can help you to pay closer attention to information that could be important. Distortion. Distortions are when you assume or interpret information, putting words and labels on an event. So, for example, if your boss's assistant asks you to see him immediately and says that he is not happy, what does this mean? In itself, it means nothing, yet you could be excused for having thoughts such as, "What have I done wrong?" or "Am I in trouble?" Though these thoughts may be appropriate, there are many other possible interpretations of why he wants to see you. Your negative assumptions about it will influence how you approach the meeting. If you can learn to recognize your own distortions, you can avoid jumping to conclusions and make more informed decisions and choices. Generalization. Generalizations are when you take a relatively small amount of information or number of examples and assume that the same supposition applies universally. Used usefully, generalizations help you to learn. For example, if I can use one computer, I can use any computer, and reinforce positive experiences. I did a good presentation today and last week, so I am a good presenter. Conversely, they can disempower. The last few sales meetings went badly. Perhaps I'm losing my touch. As with distortions, if you can learn to recognize your own disempowering generalizations, you will be better able to see situations for what they are, and so respond to the situation itself, not your past unhelpful assumptions. Also, disempowering generalizations can lead to unhelpful beliefs. Chapter 13 covers ways to change such beliefs. Using these 3 filters at work. First, simply knowing that these filters exist will help you to become more self-aware. Knowing that you delete, distort, and generalize can alert you to the possibility that you may have missed important pieces of information for a project, that is, deleted, and therefore you may choose to double-check important points. If a situation, for example, interview, has not gone as well as you would have liked, rather than say, "It all went wrong," generalization and possibly distortion, it is worth searching for what went well, that is, removing your deletions. For example, that you answered certain challenging questions confidently. You could have misinterpreted someone's response. For example, a potential customer not returning your call. Distortion. In such situations, it is often useful to ask the person concerned what they meant or how they felt. The worst that can happen is that they confirm your notion, and you can then deal with the reality rather than the possibly inaccurate assumption. When communicating with others, being aware that they delete, distort, and generalize can help you communicate more effectively. For example, if you are briefing colleagues about an important project, you may want to repeat certain key points or ask them to state in their own words what they believe you have said. This will give you an indication about whether they have deleted or distorted any key points. Similarly, when giving feedback to staff, repeat the key aspects of what they did well and areas for improvement, and ask them to tell you how they are going to do it differently next time. Tip 2.1. When doing this, be careful not to sound patronizing. Asking them to repeat it to make sure you have explained yourself correctly is probably better than asking them to repeat it to make sure they have understood. What influences how we filter? There are some additional filters that influence what we delete, distort, and generalize. Let's discuss an overview of each in turn. They will be discussed in more detail in chapters 6, 7, 8, 13, 14, and 15. Values. Open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. Dalai Lama. Values can be defined as what we want or seek, or what is important to us in a given situation or context. Each of us has our own unique set of values in life generally, and so in specific contexts, such as work. Examples of life values could be health and financial security for my family. Examples of work values could be variety and progression. Your values are usually reflected in the choices you make and your behaviors, because generally you will make choices that give you more of what is important to you. Organizations also have values, although not necessarily the ones that are espoused in the annual report and accounts or in the laminated copies shown on the wall in the reception area. For example, an organization may say that respect is a value, and yet it may not always show respect toward staff and customers. More of this in chapters 8 and 14. Values impact the three main filters, because if something is important to you or you are interested in it, you will pay attention to it and delete other information. So, a finance director might notice how many people were in a restaurant and make a mental calculation of whether the restaurant is profitable, whereas a fellow diner who happens to be a graphic designer might notice the decor and be oblivious to the number of customers. More generally, do you truly know what is important to your staff, customers, colleagues, and other stakeholders? Chapter 14 covers how to use values in business, for example, to sell more, make better choices, and manage more effectively. Beliefs. Whether you think that you can or that you can't, you are usually right. Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company. Beliefs can be defined in several ways. For example, our best current thinking about a topic, those convictions and opinions we hold as being true. Beliefs can be linked to values, in that you may believe that certain things are important. Whether from the perspective of an individual employee or business owner, beliefs can have a major impact on the results achieved. A salesman who does not believe in the effectiveness of his product or in his abilities as a salesman will almost certainly sell less than a salesman who does have empowering beliefs about the product or his abilities. Linking back to the NLP communication model and the filters, if we believe something is true, we will often filter out, that is, delete, distort, or generalize information that contradicts it so that it fits with our beliefs. The term cognitive dissonance, based on the work of Leon Festinger in his 1957 book, A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance, describes the discomfort or difficulty we experience when we hold two conflicting beliefs and the subsequent process of changing one of the beliefs to reduce the discomfort. The following example illustrates this. Story 2.1. One of my corporate clients produces IT software and support. They had been targeting businesses with a turnover of up to $75 million. The company decided to expand and target larger companies, expecting that the success of the sales team would continue. Mark and Julio had been the two leading salespeople. However, for 6 months after the expansion, Julio struggled to sell the larger clients, and I was asked to coach him. Mark's sales figures were higher than ever. It became clear in our coaching discussions that Julio held a belief that it would be difficult for him to sell to large companies because he thought they would be too discerning. Interestingly, Mark believed that it would be easier to sell to larger companies because the buyers were more sophisticated and better able to appreciate the benefits to them of the products. So for both people, there were similar, if not identical, external circumstances, events, yet the respective beliefs led to different thoughts and ultimately different results. I worked with Julio to successfully change his beliefs and hence to improve his sales. Some NLP belief change techniques are covered in Chapter 13. From the communication model perspective, Julio's changing his beliefs led to his having more useful internal representations, thoughts, state, feelings, and physiology, body language, before and during sales meetings, which led to his behaviors changing and results improving. At an organizational level, beliefs about, for example, the best way to treat staff, will impact on results. Language. Language shapes the way we think and determines what we can think about. Benjamin Lee Whorf, American linguist. The words that individuals and organizations use impact the listeners and readers. Radio advertising would be pointless were this not the case. As an example to demonstrate the impact of language on an individual, consider someone saying the following 2 sentences to himself. 1. I can't, that is, am not capable to do X. Negotiate, coach my team, make good business decisions. 2. I haven't yet learned how to do X. Negotiate, coach my team, make good business decisions, as well as I would like. For most listeners, the first statement leaves little scope for possibility and may leave them feeling disempowered, with consequent negative impact on behaviors and results, whereas the second statement implies and even creates possibility and is more empowering. Similarly, from an organization's perspective, a manager speaking to employees, using you instead of I in the 2 previous statements, will impact those employees negatively or positively, depending on which of the 2 statements is used. We will cover ways to use language effectively in Chapters 6 and 7. Meta-programs. Deep filters. Meta-programs is an NLP term for filters, which, in effect, sit beyond or underpin other filters. They are deeply embedded filters that operate irrespective of the content of what's happening, and they tend to determine how we think, as opposed to the other filters previously mentioned, which are more about what we think. For this reason, I will also refer to them as deep filters. It is generally accepted in the field of NLP that there are around 15 to 20 key deep filters, and this topic will be covered more extensively in Chapter 15. By way of illustration, let's look at an example of one of the deep filters known as the direction filter. People can be motivated either toward what they want or away from what they don't want, or somewhere along the spectrum. The 2 ends of this particular spectrum are sometimes known in the business world as the carrot or stick, or push-pull. For example, someone might be highly motivated and want to achieve their goals and targets because of the material things and kudos they will gain and be able to have. Toward. Whereas a colleague doing the same job might be highly motivated to avoid failure because they don't want to feel bad, stagnate, or live in a small house like the one they grew up in. Away from. By knowing about our own and other people's deep filters, we can gain greater insight into our own and other people's behaviors and responses to situations, and therefore be better able to influence individuals and target audiences. Using the previous example, you would motivate the toward employee by emphasizing what they would gain or achieve if they completed the task well, such as money, time off in lieu of enhanced promotion prospects, and motivate the away from employee by emphasizing the downsides of not completing the task well, such as not getting a pay raise, having to work longer hours, or damaged promotion prospects. Attitudes and experiences. You can consider attitude as a set of beliefs and values about a specific topic. Experiences are the events that have happened to us and linked to the other filters to help mold our personality. Conscious thinking versus automatic pilot. Before we end this chapter, I would like to say a few words about another important topic related to the communication model. In NLP, there is the concept of conscious mind and unconscious or subconscious mind. An awareness of this will help you to manage your own responses to events at work and be better able to work with the responses of other people. In summary, your conscious mind is the rational part of your mind and, in a work context, performs business tasks such as target setting, planning, preparing for meetings, and financial calculations. Your unconscious mind holds the memories, knowledge, experiences, beliefs, values, and emotions, and has different levels. At a superficial level of the unconscious mind, most people are able to retrieve some of their memories and be aware of some of their beliefs and values. At a deeper level, they may not be aware of some of their deeper beliefs and values, and their emotional responses happen automatically. For example, feeling nervous or excited before an important meeting is an automatic, unconscious response. Julio, Story 2.1, was not initially consciously aware of his belief about selling to larger companies. Our conversations helped bring it to his conscious awareness. The purpose of mentioning this topic is to raise your awareness that everyone you interact with at work will to some degree be driven by their automatic responses. If all business decisions were based purely on rational, that is, conscious motives, it is likely that all procurement staff in different companies with a specific sector would buy from the same supplier, and that people within an organization would agree on most decisions. In reality, people base their decisions to some degree on emotional factors, or deeper beliefs and values, regardless of whether they are consciously aware of it. This awareness, plus the knowledge you will gain from this audiobook, will help you uncover, for example, the values of your staff, and hence be able to influence them more effectively. Though it is outside the scope of this audio program to delve deeply into the more automatic or unconscious elements, it is important that you are aware of this. If you are interested in learning more, there are numerous books available on the subject of hypnosis, which will give a deeper insight into the unconscious mind. Some of these are listed in the Resources for Further Learning section, available in the companion PDF to this audiobook. Final thoughts. Because we all have different ways in which we use language, beliefs, values, deep filter, metaprogram profiles, attitudes, and experiences, it is hardly surprising that we have different opinions and observe different things about a given situation at work, which may sometimes lead to different and sometimes unexpected responses from other people. For example, economic forecasts vary depending on the economist, despite the economists having access to the same economic data. Similarly, the strategic direction of an organization may alter when a new chief executive is appointed, despite the two chief executives having access to the same marketing and business data. Much of the information in this chapter relates to how an individual person thinks. Similar principles apply to the way in which groups and organizations operate. For example, teams and organizations have values and beliefs, which are often referred to as the culture. This audiobook seeks to improve the degree to which your messages will be received in the way you intended, and that you receive the messages from other people in the way they intended. Chapter 3. Attitudes that Count. The Mindset for Business Success. Success or failure in business is caused more by mental attitude even than by mental capacities. Sir Walter D. Scott, founder of leading Australian management consultancy company W.D. Scott. I often hear people talk about NLP in terms of influencing, communication, and a series of techniques. Rarely do they mention the attitudes and beliefs that underpin NLP. In my experience as a trainer and coach, it is these attitudes that make the biggest difference. Indeed, the senior managers and directors who attend my NLP business training courses tell me that if the whole of their organization used the material that we will cover in this chapter alone, profits, or efficiencies for not-for-profit organizations, would increase typically by 50%. The smallest figure I have heard quoted is 20%, so please pay attention. Setting the scene. As we discussed in Chapter 1, NLP was developed by modeling excellence. The early developers of NLP found that there were certain beliefs and attitudes held by all successful people. These can be grouped into two main areas. The NLP presuppositions. These are a series of assumptions to be adopted when using NLP and form the basis of an ethical framework for using it. The principles for success. These guide almost all courses of action and can be a useful framework for achieving goals. We will consider these two main areas in turn. NLP presuppositions. There are around 15 NLP presuppositions. The exact number and specific wording may vary slightly because different schools of NLP have their own approach to training the topic. These NLP presuppositions are relevant to a wide range of NLP activities, such as coaching, therapy, achieving performance targets, and communication skills. For the purposes of this audiobook, we will consider only those 9 presuppositions that are most relevant to the workplace. For your convenience, these have been divided into 3 groups. Please note that these groupings are for guideline purposes and that some could fall into more than one category. 1. Externally focused, that is, based on or impacting on the outside world. 2. Internally focused and internal attitudes. 3. Results or activity focused. Please use common sense when applying these presuppositions at work because not all of them will be relevant in every situation. Externally focused. There are 3 key NLP presuppositions in this category. Have respect for other people's point of view. The meaning and outcome of communication are in the response you get. Our interpretation of a situation is not the situation itself. Have respect for other people's point of view. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. You will appreciate from the communication model that each person is unique, with different values, beliefs, metaprogram profiles, and experiences. Though you might not agree with your colleague, supplier, or customer, if you can demonstrate that you respect their point of view, you will be more likely to influence them. See Covey's quote. And even if they do not come around to your way of thinking on this particular issue, you can agree to disagree and still maintain a healthy working relationship. Conversely, if you do not demonstrate respect, the relationship may be damaged. The meaning and outcome of communication are in the response you get. The communication model shows that everyone filters information differently. Though your words and actions might seem clear to you, people you interact with at work might interpret them differently from how you intended, and therefore might respond differently from how you expected. That is, their response is based on the meaning they interpret instead of the one you want. Therefore, if certain people at work are not responding in the way you expect, instead of expecting them to change, it is easier if you change the way you communicate. Much of this audiobook is focused on how you can be more flexible when communicating. Our interpretation of a situation is not the situation itself. The map is not the territory. Alfred Korzybski, philosopher and scientist who developed the theory of general semantics. It is rare for any meeting to take place where everyone agrees with each other, and then all take the actions exactly as everyone at the meeting expects. This is because we all have our own unique interpretation of events, and this interpretation is not the event. Therefore, you will interpret a situation, such as a negotiation, in a different way from someone else, and you might describe it, for example, as a battle, whereas for someone else it is just a conversation or an exploration. We all respond to our own map of the event, not to the actual territory. NLP can help you to appreciate other perspectives, see Chapter 11, and ask questions to gain deeper understanding, see Chapter 7. Internally focused and internal attitudes. There are 3 key NLP presuppositions in this category. There is no failure, just feedback. Flexibility goes a long way. We are, or can learn to be, in charge of our mind and therefore our results. There is no failure, just feedback. Failure is only the opportunity to begin again, only this time more wisely. Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company. There are so many examples of successful business people who failed before becoming successful that this audiobook could be devoted just to this topic. Examples include Roland Hussey Macy Sr., the founder of Macy's department store chain, who had at least 4 retail failures. Thomas Edison, the holder of over 1,000 patents in the U.S. alone, who allegedly made 10,000 attempts before successfully creating the light bulb. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, who co-ran a business called Trafodata in the 1970s, which lost money. Walt Disney, whose Laugh-O-Gram Films business went bankrupt after around 1 year's trading. The moral is simple. There is no failure, merely feedback that what you have done did not work. Learn from it, retain or even intensify your motivation, and move forward. NLP can help you set goals and maintain the motivation to achieve them. See chapters 4, 8, and 14. Flexibility goes a long way. Insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Albert Einstein. Following on from the previous presupposition, if what you are doing is not working, it makes sense to adjust your approach in some way. If your approach to getting a job interview, or appointment, sale, or promotion is not succeeding yet, alter your approach. Sometimes being willing and able to be very flexible is important, as the following story illustrates. Story 3.1. Napoleon Hill, a highly successful businessman and author of Think and Grow Rich, recounts that he got his first job by writing to a prospective employer that he really wanted to work for, congratulating the owner, to whom he sent the letter, because he, Hill, had chosen that organization to be his first employer, and so happy would they be with his abilities that he would be willing to work for nothing for a specified period of time, with the proviso that when they hired him, they would reimburse him for his previous work. We are, or can learn to be, in charge of our mind, and therefore our results. Even if you feel nervous about certain situations, interviews, selling, presentations, meetings with senior people, or have limiting beliefs about your capabilities, you can learn to change the way you think, and therefore change your results. NLP has several techniques to help you feel at your best, some of which are covered in this audiobook, particularly chapters 10 and 13. Results. Activity-focused. There are 3 key NLP presuppositions in this category. People have all the potential that they need to make the changes they want. People are making the best choices they believe they have available and are doing the best they can. Modeling excellence leads to improved performance. People have all the potential that they need to make the changes they want. The past does not equal the future. Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, author, and performance coach. Following on from the previous presupposition, it is useful to consider that each of us has untapped potential. So whether you are thinking about yourself and your own aspirations, or managing staff and their aspirations, recognizing that everyone has abilities to learn, adapt, be motivated, and excel in certain circumstances will help you and your colleagues to progress further than if you believe that everyone is limited to their previous results. The key point here is that though not everyone can be the most successful business person in the world, the past does not equal the future, and NLP has many techniques to help people fulfill their potential and progress further than they otherwise would. People are making the best choices they believe they have available, and are doing the best they can. Sometimes other people's choices and behaviors at work may seem counterproductive when viewed by an outsider. Examples could include repeatedly being late for meetings, getting angry or being obstructive at brainstorming sessions. Though commercial reality and common sense would suggest that prolonged and continued unhelpful behavior should not be tolerated, sometimes it can be useful to recognize that each person is making the choices that they believe are best for them at the time, given their awareness of the available range of behaviors. This awareness can help you gain greater understanding of your colleagues and, if appropriate, help coach them to make more useful choices. For example, someone frequently being late might be due to their having a belief that being early or on time is a waste of their own time because other people are usually late, and so they squeeze in extra work to try to be productive. Helping them to see the impact on others, see Chapter 11 in particular, might help you to raise their awareness and hence change their behavior. Modeling excellence leads to improved performance. Modeling, that is, observing, analyzing, and replicating excellence, is how NLP was initially developed. In a work context, benchmarking, that is, comparing your processes and results to those of a similar organization or process, is a widely accepted method of improving performance, usually at an organizational level. Benchmarking successful individual performance is something that usually improves individual and hence business results. For example, what are the key aspects of the beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors of outstanding managers, salespeople, and customer service professionals that differentiate them from their colleagues who are merely good? In Chapter 16, we will discuss further how to model excellent performance. Being at cause. Shallow men believe in luck. Strong men believe in cause and effect. Ralph Waldo Emerson, essayist, lecturer, poet, and philosopher. The NLP presuppositions can be summarized by the concept of cause and effect. Cause and effect means that for every effect, there is an underlying cause. For example, the economic circumstances, effect, are caused by decisions made by governments, consumers, businesses, etc. Extending this concept to the workplace, people can either be at effect or at cause. People who have an at effect mindset tend to exhibit the following behaviors: complaining, making excuses, being negative, expecting others to make good things for them, blaming circumstances, that is, causes. People who have an at cause mindset tend to have a can-do attitude, be positive, take responsibility for their own actions and results, take action to achieve what they want despite circumstances so that they impact the circumstances rather than the circumstances impacting them. In the numerous NLP work-based training courses I have run, this one topic leads to almost total agreement that being at cause leads to better results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Exercise 3.1. Approximately 1 minute. On a scale of 0 to 100%, where 100% means you are fully at cause and 0% means you are fully at effect, estimate where you are on the cause-effect spectrum. Please be honest with yourself. So, even in the face of adversity at work, such as poor sales figures, low economic growth, and corporate restructuring, if you have an at-cause mindset, you will produce better results than if you have an at-effect mindset. By putting into practice the information covered throughout this audiobook, you will increase your at-cause score. The principles for success in business. There is an NLP model known as the Principles for Success. The model has 6 elements. Let's take each in turn. Know what you want. Before starting any work activity, ranging from a simple meeting to a major corporate restructuring, know what you want, your goal or desired outcome. Chapter 4 covers goal setting in some detail. Take feedback. Are you on track to achieve your goal? Chapter 5 provides some pointers on gaining in-the-moment feedback from individuals. If you are not on track, then be flexible. Referring back to one of the NLP presuppositions, flexibility goes a long way, and the quote from Einstein, if something is not working in the way you want, make changes. Build and maintain good relationships. In NLP, we call this rapport, and this is covered in Chapter 5. Have a positive mental attitude. The fundamentals of having a positive mental attitude have been covered in this chapter, and this audiobook provides various NLP techniques, covered in Part 3, to assist you to have a positive mental attitude and to help you help others to have the same. Take action. Without action, nothing changes. The NLP presuppositions, being at cause, and the principles for success offer individuals, teams, and organizations a set of distinctions that leads to significantly better results. Here is an exercise that I do on all of my business training courses. Exercise 3.2, approximately 10 minutes. Think of 2 or more situations at work that went well, and 2 or more that did not go well. For those that went well, notice to what extent you were using the NLP presuppositions, the at-cause mindset, and the principles for success, even if you didn't know about this at the time. For those situations that did not go well, notice which of these would have been useful had you known about them at the time. Examples could be customer or supplier meetings, presentations, interviews, or dealing with a difficult client or patient. On my training courses, I ask people to discuss this in small groups, adding around 10 to 20 minutes to the exercise.